Afternoon, and welcome to Sean's little check-in recording number. I hope everyone's doing okay on this Friday of finishing up week 2, at least here where I am in Massachusetts, of pandemic pandemonium. As I've said before, I know it's been going on far longer elsewhere around the world, but here it's felt like things have been turned upside down over the past few weeks. And what I wanted to touch upon today, and in the media, there's some articles floating around there about the grief and the loss response that we are having collectively and individually around this pandemic. That I don't just mean, although I certainly include, understandably, the loss of human lives directly from this pandemic, and directly too, such as economic issues with lack of resources happening for folks around the world and access to medical care and what have you. So there's that base of loss, but there's also loss in other respects in terms of our the way we lead our lives. I've certainly noticed that for myself. And while last week I touched upon the silver lining in the work that I've been able to do via remote like this with clients and being able to see into their home being a neat, helpful thing with deepening the work, it caught up with me just by yesterday, the sense of loss around doing all remote work with clients and not having that in-person connection where our energy fields are literally touching each other, even if we aren't physically, by us sitting in the same room together. I am missing and feeling that loss acutely of human warmth that is there between clients and myself. And that's on the work front, but that is a major loss I'm feeling. I'm feeling sadness about it and a bit depressed off and on about it. And I realized this is my own personal experience around the grief and loss side of things within this whole experience we're sharing together within the pandemic. All of you, I am sure, in assorted ways are experiencing all sorts of loss around how things were for you that you could count upon in your lives before this on, and now whatever those aspects of your life are, such as what I just shared about my work life, for example, they aren't there for you now, and it's been huge adjustment. And while it's been good to derive the positive out of that, see the silver linings, etc., and how adaptive we all are collectively and individually through this, and that's important. It's also right next to that very important to give room to the feelings of grief and loss around this, the disappointment, the frustration, the other assorted feelings. They're very important to give room for and voice to as well. And when I say voice to, that means sharing with people you know and trust who can and will commiserate with you, will resonate with you, will listen, validate, and you will do the same with them. We need to do this with each other. It is very, very important as part of getting through all this. Next to, of course, what I've shared before about is seeing the positives that can somehow come out of this. We also need to collectively and individually grieve and mourn what we're going through and what we've lost and are continuing to lose. My hope is, for me, for example, when this is all over, whenever that is, and life goes back to some semblance of normal, though I think it will be significantly different, as well as maybe also the same in certain respects. I hope to go back to seeing clients face to face, at least a good portion of them, even if some of them in my practice will continue to be telemedicine and I will do remote work in the mix. I'm fine with that. But I certainly don't look forward to doing all remote clients like I've been doing in an indefinite way, particularly when the pandemic is over and done. I'd like to be physically with my clients, sharing energy with them as part of the healing process. That is what I ultimately really signed up to do as a therapist, is to be in person with people and in shared physical space together and energetic space that goes with that. That is not really quite happening now. It's just so exactly remote. We rely on two senses now, which is and sight, and to take that each other in then more intellectually and mentally, since we can't do it quite on the resonating psychic level in person. So that is a big loss for me that I'm acknowledging and giving voice to. There's other things as well. It's been hard to continue to be restricted around going about in the community freely like I used to. I miss to local restaurants, so they miss me, of course. Financially, obviously, for their businesses, they miss their business, they miss me and others. But part of community, I know servers and chefs, and just appreciating their through good food and caring service to me for now, and I miss that, and I imagine they miss me. So important, as time has been going on, to be there with this loss next to the good too that comes out of this, as best we can find it where we can, and do what we can to care for ourselves and each other. I already touched upon mindfulness. That's one way. Being creative in all sorts of ways is another that intersects with mindfulness, which I will touch upon more in a future. But I just want you to know that I'm with you folks over the grief of this, and be with each other over it as well, over this grief and loss, as part of being in all this together. Take care, everyone, and may you have as good a weekend as possible.